from our heart, living from our core, living from our power, we all get more. We are powerful women.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Alignment Summit. I'm Sue Erda. I'm your host for this summit, and I'm also one of the publishers at Powerful You Publishing. I'm so grateful to be able to share with you in this summit the 20 authors who have come together in a collaboration book titled Women Living in Alignment. And they are sharing their personal stories in there, their journeys of getting into alignment, maybe noticing they weren't in alignment, and how they arranged that for themselves so that they're now living thriving lives and really enjoying themselves and their life and their energy all rolled into one. And I'm so grateful to bring these authors to you through this summit. And today I'm excited to talk with Kathy Sipple, who I've talked to in many of our summits because she's actually written in many of our books, and she happens to be one of our trainers for Powerful You Publishing. So I'm grateful for her because her stories are always fascinating and amazing. I know you'll love reading her story in the book. Today we're going to talk to her about her topic, which is alignment as a lifelong practice. And I know that she walks the talk. So I'm excited to hear from her. First, I'll read a bio of Kathy, and then we'll talk with her. Kathy Sipple is available to help communities build resilience through social technology, climate action, time banking, and permaculture. She is a certified sociocracy facilitator and is working on a book called Social Climate, expected to be published in 2023. The book will serve as a guide for communities to address environmental and social justice issues while enriching the quality of life. Kathy holds a degree in economics from the University of Michigan and is a member of Mensa. She lives in Valparaiso, Indiana, the Vale of Paradise, with her husband, John, and their black lab, Bodhi. And I'm excited, Kathy, to talk with you today. How are you?
I'm great, Sue. Thanks for having me back.
You know, I'd love to have a conversation with you, so I'm excited for our audience to hear this. I love your topic, as I said, and let's talk about that. What do you mean by alignment as a practice?
Well, when you told me the theme for this book, I've told you this before, other times when you've shared the theme of the anthology, and as you mentioned, I've written in several of them now, I feel like my life starts to actually align with the topic. And, I just start to become aware of how alive that theme is in me. And with this one, I think I told you, I must have written 10 different chapters before I finally settled on the one that I actually contributed on, because I just kept thinking of all the different ways that I've been aligning my life to live according to my purpose for the last, 25 years, I bet. So it's really been a lifelong practice, and the scale too is crazy. Like some of the really, really big scale things about alignment. I want to start with something really, really big, and then we'll zoom in so it doesn't get too crazy. But even like reincarnation, there was a time before I thought that was an actual thing, but after I embraced that as a possibility, I was amazed seeing past life regressions, how they were almost like, if you've ever bowled and they put the little gutter guards on there so that you can't totally get a gutter ball. That's almost what I feel like when you go down the path of learning what your past lives were and you really absorb the meaning of those past lives. I feel like they're messages from the past urging you into alignment on this shot. Whether that's true or whether it's not, it's just a really useful construct for me to say, okay, I don't need to know what that guy did in the 1400s. I don't need to do what this woman did in the 1600s, who was also me. And so there's this past that I'm trying to align myself, not repeating their, I don't want to call them mistakes, but I don't need to learn the same lessons. Like, let's learn new lessons this time. And then when I was 26 years old, and I'm 56 now, so this is 30 years ago. I guess 30 years ago, I've been playing with alignment. I was really lucky to get this download, this vision of myself in the future. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I did have white hair. That was part of the reason I wanted to let my hair grow natural, so that I could become future me, because I really liked her. And it just so happened that this woman who I saw, who was also me in this lifetime, lived in the woods, and she just was leading this amazing life. And I've just given her the moniker of the old woman of the woods. And so she served like a beacon for me on this distant shore that it's not quite a career path, but I can just get straight there. So I've been zinging and zagging to kind of reach her and to do the things that I think she, did within this lifetime. Does that sound crazy? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense to me. I don't know about our listeners, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Good.
Yeah,
Well, it's good.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's really been fun when people say, "What's your 5-year plan?" And I think, wow, if I'm still on the same trajectory, then I'm probably doing something wrong because, again, 30 years ago, I was working in, Fortune 500 company. I was selling advertising. I just was doing everything so very, very, very normal. I wasn't in quote unquote normal. Exactly. Yeah, this is my new normal, and I love this new normal so much better. But yeah, I just thought, okay, I don't know how to get there and be her, be that old woman of the woods, but I had a whisper that said, and it actually was in a yoga class. So I think yoga is such a great, example of alignment. Like you can be doing a pose and you think you're doing the pose, and then your instructor comes along and adjusts you. And then you're like, oh, that's what warrior pose feels like when you're in alignment. That's totally different. So some of these course corrections that I've taken, like going to yoga, that was something I hadn't done before 30 years ago. And then by going to yoga and literally figuring out how to better align my spine, I ran into people who then told me about Reiki. And then, I followed up on that hunch and I became a Reiki practitioner and then a Reiki master and teacher. And I just keep collecting tools that literally help me stay in alignment.
Yeah, that's cool. So, and that's what, for me, that's what life is about, just gathering information, gathering people, gathering things, gathering knowledge, wisdom, and trying new stuff. And I really love to do that. So what have you noticed, Patty, whatever your name is, Kathy, what are some of the large patterns that you have shown up for you that influence your alignment practice?
Yeah, well, so many. I really, really take this seriously. I just want to give you a couple different things. In permaculture, there's the saying, design from pattern to detail. And I find that really, really helpful because so many times, I feel like we're so zoomed in to the details of our life. And it's a little bit hard to see how what you're doing actually is in alignment, So in my chapter, I use a sailing metaphor. And if people haven't sailed, I'll give a really brief explainer. But you need to work with how the wind can take you, how the wind can interact with your sails. It's not like just stepping on the gas and steering, and you just can zoom right toward your destination. So sometimes you have to kind of, like I mentioned, zig and zag a little bit. So tacking is the thing that I do. That I don't want to veer off too far on this 45-degree angle for like years and years and years, but I'll keep that old woman of the woods in the distance. And I just kind of have an internal compass that tells me there's a great book, Power versus Force. I got to give that one single book a really big shout out. Just the idea that our own bodies, you can ask your body, is this true? Is this right for me? And that your body can actually, be a tool in and of itself to tell you if you're on course or, not that if it's maybe universally true, but if it's true for you. And that's all I really care about. Is this my true path for me? So there's the zigging and there's the zagging. And then another really big shout out that I want to give is to human design. I know we've got some human design folks in this book. I don't do human design. So there is literally nothing in this for me to give a shout out for human design. But when I got my own human design, I felt like it was reading a manual of exactly who I am. I mean, it's like beyond astrology. I have no idea exactly how it works, but I found out that I'm a manifester, and that really, really helped me to understand that that's a different energy. And so I need to pick projects and I need to pick roles where the expectations are in alignment with somebody who's a manifester. There's another book that I really, really love called The Starfish and the Spider. And I'm pretty obsessed with creating leaderless organizations. And that's what this entire book is about. So a spider, if you think of a spider, you cut off the head you have a dead spider. In a starfish organization, you cut off one of the arms and it regenerates. So I'm very, very interested in how to build a starfish organization. In that same book, I am going to get around to alignment. They identify two types of people that are necessary to build starfish organizations, to build leaderless organizations. One is a catalyst and one is a champion. And a catalyst is the person who shows up early, gets the party started, and then they move on. A champion is the one who carries the ball over the goalpost and stays with a project for, maybe 5, 10, 20 years. Well, I've already told you that I zig and I zag. I'm not going to be the champion. I'm not going to be the person who carries the ball over the goalpost. So just knowing that I'm a manifester and that I'm a catalyst also helps me align, not just with what do I want to be when I grow up, but actually how do I get there? How do I best use my energy, not burn out, and show up with integrity to other people to be able to explain the benefit that I'm bringing and to know who else I need to add to the team to make sure that we collectively stay in alignment, for the whole project. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And knowing you and knowing how diverse your interests are and how many things you like to be involved in, it makes perfect sense that you're a catalyst and you help get things going. And then you rely on all the other people and their gifts and their talents to make it happen too.
Yeah. And so that is my goal, is in this lifetime to be building, starfish organizations everywhere possible, regenerative organizations. And currently the way that I'm doing that is through this methodology that you referenced in my bio, sociocracy, which means deciding together. So I hope someday you'll get a chance to just experience what it feels like to be in a sociocratic circle and see how decisions get made by consent, not consensus, but by consent. So it's listening to every voice and it's weaving every opinion into a proposal that then gets decided on by all. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, it really is like looking up, in the sky. Here we've got Canadian geese, migrating right now. And when you see them, flying in a perfect V, you just think, how does nature do that? It's the closest thing that I've seen to getting humans be able to do that and to decide together, to be in alignment together. So now that I feel like I've gotten, I don't say masterful at aligning myself, but pretty dialed in to where I'm going, how I'm doing it, now to just be leading other people to be able to decide together to create starfish organizations, that just feels so meta to me. That feels like, finally, this is what I've been working for.
That's very cool. And what you explained about, the geese, we all can picture that. We have all seen birds flying in formations, even huge swarms of them, and just they're moving together. Mm-hmm. And so to take that model of nature, beautiful, perfect model of nature, and move it into corporate or mm-hmm. into organizations, what an amazing thing to do. That makes perfect sense to me. And, being, a nature girl myself, I think that's beautiful. I love the idea of that. Do you think it's happening quickly, or is it one of those kind of slow moving things?
It's not happening quickly enough, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah.
So now that I've found it, I want to be the cheerleader for it. I want it to be, really, happening here the way I see it happening elsewhere. The
Yep.
places where it is going, really well, in my opinion, is India. They have children's parliaments there where kids are getting this from, very young school age. And I think it's on Fridays. There's a certain time of the day on Friday where they don't sit by grade, they sit by neighborhood. So they actually have these neighborhood circles where kids of all ages sit together and they talk about the issues that are happening in their neighborhood, and they use consent decision making to figure out what they, as this children's parliament, can do about it. And they have a representative that goes to the whole neighborhood circle that consists of, adults and all ages and that kind of thing. And then in Europe, I really think they're taking on parts of that playbook, and they've got an organization called Sonic, which I don't remember the exact acronym, but it's something like Sociocracy in Neighborhoods, European something or other. And they're applying that same neighborhood, they call it neighborocracy rather than sociocracy, mm-hmm. which I think is a bit more intuitive, just governing by neighborhood. That's really about that's what sociocracy is. I mean, you can do it in large scale governments and that kind of thing, but I'm really, really interested in neighborhood size solutions that are linked together to eventually blanket the whole. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that sounds great. I love that. I love that. Western, Eastern culture, there's a lot we can learn from that. And, they are ahead of us in so many ways, even though we're, supposedly ahead of them in many ways. But that seems more intuitive, more natural to do that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I would like to talk more about your vision of your
Mhm.
70-year-old self, the woman in the woods. And I know you wrote about it in your chapter. You talked about it today. Tell us, how has that played into your alignment practice?
Yeah, it's been such a gift. I use that sailing metaphor, and I almost think of her like the lighthouse, that is like, I don't maybe think about it every single day, just like if you're out on a sailboat, you're not, every minute going to be dialed into like a lighthouse. It's just this far thing on the far shore that you're, maybe sailing toward and that you can see. But now that 30 years have passed, I am maybe not going to zig and zag quite so many times before I get to that distant shore. When I saw her 30 years ago, I didn't have words like co-housing or eco-village or sociocracy. I didn't know what permaculture. I mean, some of those things were probably around, but I just saw kind of like natural health and people making decisions in different ways and sharing finances differently. And as an economics major, that really intrigued me because I kind of knew majoring in economics that I didn't want to work on Wall Street. I didn't want to do it the normal way, but I almost had to learn the rules so I could break the rules. And it just seemed to me like this woman, this old woman of the woods, she had it figured out. She was just living very harmoniously with people of multiple generations. Some might have been family, but most seemed like chosen family, sharing responsibility, sharing ownership of the housing. And so that's been very clear for me from the beginning. Well, in my sociocracy class this year, I asked my Austrian teacher, how do people make decisions in eco-villages and in co-housing? And she said, sociocracy. And there's this great book, and it's I think it's by Diana Leith Christensen, and she's a noted sociocracy expert who is also working specifically in that space. So a lot of sociocracy people are working exactly in that space, and it's just all weaving together in this really kind of amazing toolbox that I didn't have any words for at the beginning. And that's where I feel like alignment is such a great word, because you can see it. You can see if things are in alignment or if they're not. You can feel it. We can feel it in our spine, right? If we're sitting up straight and energy's flowing well. And so yeah, I'm probably rambling a little bit, but it's a feeling that I get, and it's just a knowing. Like I can go internally and know, is this the path that she took? Is this something I need to get to that far shore? Is this something that the old woman of the woods needs to have in her toolbox? If yes, I go for it. Vision boards also help. I do a new one probably at least every year or two, and I've got one right behind my computer monitor that I look at every single day. And so that's the thing that can kind of guide me, maybe year by year, whereas she's the 5-year zig and zag plan. And then there's just like little, hints that we get or nudges from people that say, hey, do you know about this? Have you heard about this? I think you would like this class. You would like this book. All of them together really help to keep me on track.
Yeah, that's neat. And it's really about paying attention, being aware, and being open to listen to new things, to try new things and go down those paths and do the zigging and zagging. Because I think a lot of people do think that, hey, I've got this vision, I've got this large purpose here, I'm doing this, and this is the way to go. And we forget all the stuff that in the meandering that we can learn along the way, and that will actually build us and maybe get us to our purpose either faster or more fulfillingly, if that's a word, fulfillingly.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense to me. And, because everybody's got that larger purpose that we're looking for. So you have your vision board that helps you to see it, what you've seen before. Tell us about the practices that you use, maybe week to week, day to day, month to month, or even from minute to minute, just some things that you use that are tools that our listeners might like to also know?
Gosh, again, I have so many. I know that I can't possibly share all of them, but just one simple thing that I do. This I started doing with a life coach who wanted some marketing help from me, and she offered me this, weekly accountability check-in. Well, we're not working together anymore, but I kept her list of questions that she would give me for each of our sessions. And they were the same questions. And I thought, well, why couldn't I just ask myself the questions? Which of course I could, but I tried something different over the last year. I've got this one friend who we've never met in person. We met since COVID and we met online. She lives in Colorado, and we have an asynchronous accountability check-in on a Google Doc. And it's just answering the questions like, what are your, what are you doing that's creating momentum this week? What did you expect to get done that you didn't get done? What was your biggest accomplishment or biggest victory, this week? And we can really talk about whatever the heck we want, but we do it on Sunday mornings. And, there's not like an exact check-in time, but for one whole year, we've done this. And now this document is like over 300 pages long.
Wow.
And yeah. And so, once we both write our responses, then the other will each go in and just kind of make little comments or, add a girl or little emojis or sometimes really deep thoughts about, what the other has written. And it's been just so beautiful to just keep trying things. Another thing that I've tried this year is a developmental sprint. This is a 30-day exercise, and I had never done this before, but I'm going to give a shout out to an organization called the Developmental Edge. They do these sprints, I think, probably 6-7 times a year. And if you watch for it, you can probably get a link to participate for free. If not, email me. My info is in the contact sheet, and I will send you a link for a free way to participate in this. But what you do is you set a goal at the beginning of the 30 days, and then you ask yourself, what are my unexamined assumptions about why I can't do this or what's going to get in my way? And then you design experiments each week to help you crack the code and just see if your unexamined assumptions really are true or not. And that has been mind-blowing. I mean, it has just like expanded my awareness of so many things that we just don't question because we're showing up in life, and just keep asking and tweaking and figuring out how to get to your real core self. And if it's possible, I think this is not a quick and easy thing, but creating your own work. If you can't call the shots and to some extent be an entrepreneur or somehow work for yourself, I feel like some people are lucky to land a job where the job actually completely matches their skills and abilities. I haven't been lucky enough to find one of those. There are probably some unicorn jobs out there, or maybe just people that want to do something way more normal, like be a dentist or something and not, create a co-housing village. But for me, I know that figuring out a way to just retool what it is that I consider work every so often is a big, big strategy that has kept me in alignment.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And, so you're talking about the thing that you do with your friend for a year and doing that every week. That's a weekly check-in with questions is great. I love that. Questions, I always say questions are my friend, the answers, that's later, but the questions are where the meat is, the juicy part of it is, I love that. So what do you think? What do you recommend for our listeners who are wanting to live in alignment, who, have that purpose, they want to do it? And what, you've talked a little bit, and when I've listened to these things you said, what would you recommend for them to do, to live, to practice daily, to stay more in alignment with their own purpose, their soul purpose, what they're doing here on this planet?
Yeah, get quiet, walk in nature, listen to your heart's murmurs. What is it really telling you to do? Think back to when you were a kid, what were you excited about? What did you think you wanted to be when you grew up? And it's never too late. I mean, I didn't even know what sociocracy was 3 years ago. And now I'm going to be a sociocracy consultant. I'm completely, changing what it is that I'm doing as a profession. So I think starting with just a conversation, I wrote a tip in the free ebook that just start with aligning a conversation. Instead of thinking that you know who it is exactly that you're talking to and what you're going to talk about and what you have to say, listen for the intersectionality and just find out how you can align a single conversation. And then if you want to play a little bit bigger and be like the geese and fly together, I would go to kathysipple.com and just click the link that says Taste of Sociocracy. You can go to an immersive experience and just feel how it is to sit in a meeting that's not governed by Robert's Rules of Order. It's a whole new, different thing where things are in flow and what you say matters, as does what everybody else says. It's just, if you've never done it, you owe it to yourself to just experience alignment in a different way.
I love it. I love it. So that's kathysipple.com. I love it. Kathy, I always love our conversations. I love what you write in the books. I think that you're fascinating and you're interesting, and it's because you are open to everything. And you have a different way of looking at it and bringing in nature and holistic practices and into real world solutions, and it's really cool. I love it. Thank you so much for that. I know that you do live in alignment and you walk the talk, as I said, and I know you practice this stuff, and I'm looking forward to reading your book whenever you actually do write that. I know that it's in there and it's coming, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. And listeners, thank you for being here. You wanting to live your life more in alignment helps everybody do that, because by your example and you honoring yourself and honoring your own soul journey and getting aligned with you and not thinking about everybody else, that is what makes the world a really beautiful place, because then you're in alignment, you're in peace, you are in action and doing work that matters and feels good, and then the whole world benefits from that. So thank you for that. And please, continue to listen to the summit. These authors have so much wonderful stuff to share. And on launch day, November 2nd, that's our alignment of the book, Women Living in Alignment. We do have a 99-cent Kindle special on that day. So if you're into Kindle, definitely that is the day to buy that book. Paperback books are also available then, and you'll enjoy the 20 stories from these amazing women who are sharing their own journey of alignment. So thank you all for being here. That website, by the way, is womenlivinginalignment.com. And when you go there, you'll be directed to Amazon to buy that, whatever country you're in. So enjoy that. And thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being in alignment. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.